Hello and welcome to allpointstv.com. This is Briona's Legacy. And it's been a while since we've been on. I want to wish you a Happy New Year. And, a lot's been going on with the heroin epidemic and the prescription drugs. I don't know if you heard the president's speech. Within the first 3 minutes, that's what he brought up with was about the prescription drugs and the heroin epidemic. Why are politicians and the president starting to talk about it is because this thing has been going on for years now, and what's happening is all these coalitions are popping up in every corner, in every community, because of all the people that we're losing. The last 3-4 years, man, I've gone to more funerals than I care to even count. And that's what it is, It started in 2011, I lost my child. And, to be honest with you, I just thought that this was choice. My daughter is just making the wrong choices for herself. But later, because when you're going through it, you don't want nobody to know what's happening in your home, or you're embarrassed, and like I said, everything's hush hush. After I lost Briona, I started speaking out, and as I started speaking out about losing Briona to this epidemic, this heroin epidemic and opiates, people were sending me letters from all over the state, people I never ever met. And, they were telling me that this is happening in their home. This is happening in their brother's home. This is happening in their grandparents, their mothers or fathers. Like, everybody was touched. So, I started educating myself about this epidemic, and learned that, yeah, maybe it was choice the first time. And even some people, it wasn't a matter of choice. They got hurt or something to that aspect of it, and they were given some kind of opiates or pain pills of some sort, and they got addicted. Addiction is many things. You can be a sex addict. You can be a food addict. You can be a drug addict, an alcohol. So addiction can be many things. But this epidemic of the heroin and the opiates, people are dying. It's not like a gambler where you're losing your house and you're losing your family. Yes, you're losing everything anyway, but you're losing your life also. 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I was watching 60 Minutes, and they had the czar, or the head of the mental health community. They call him the czar, or they give somebody this name that's like a head of a certain department and stuff. And as he was talking, he said, I've been gay for 20 years, and I don't have a problem telling somebody I'm gay. He says, but I do have a problem telling somebody I'm a recovering addict because of the stigma that goes with it. That's crazy, isn't it? But that's how it is. You tell somebody, you're not afraid to tell somebody you have cancer or you're a diabetic or you have any kind of sickness, but to tell them that you are an addict, which is also a sickness. It's a brain disease. And people just look at you like, like a bum or, somebody from the ghetto or something. But they're finally, this is what he started saying, is they're realizing, with this war on drugs since the 70s, and all it's gotten us is more and more prisons, that's not working, They think by locking people away, we're forgetting about them, okay? this epidemic is 23 million people. 23 million people that are addicts right now. And only 10% of them actually get help. Why? Because of the because this epidemic and the stigma that goes behind it. Okay, the way people look at you, like you're just a scum of the earth. Well, what's happening is I think, especially with our politicians and stuff, they're realizing that everybody's affected. Not only is it happening, in Grand Blanc, in Linden, in Fenton, in Flushing, it's happening in every state, all over our country. What's happening is, 80% of heroin users, they start with prescription drugs. They start with the opiates, the pain pills. Back in the, I believe it was the 80s, drug companies came out and they says, well, we're losing all kinds of money on this pain pills. Pain pills were just really given to somebody that was dying. They had a terminal disease or something, and they wanted their the end of their life to not to have any pain or anything, to go in peace. So what happens? They says, well, we're losing all this money, on this prescription drugs or on these opiates. We should start putting them out. So as you start going to a doctor, the doctor, he don't even ask you what you're there for. He has these things on his wall, 1 to 10 with different faces, smiley face to a frown. Between 1 and 10, where is your pain level? These opiates or these pain pills, we make them all, okay? And we are 5% of the world. 5% of the world, and we absorb 95%. 95%. Now the other 95% of the world, they only absorb or they use 5% of these opiates. Isn't that crazy? Because we go see the doctor, and that's what he's putting in your head. Your pain level.
I'd like to interject here. Back a couple years ago, I was watching Jim Cramer's Mad Money on CNBC.
Yeah.
And one of the drug pharmacy companies just came out with, I think it was the maker of Oxy, wasn't it? Or one of the other drugs. Anyway, he was saying, buy the stock, and he's saying, it's going to go up because so many people. Oh no, it's for adult learning, wasn't it?
No, it was a painkiller.
It was a painkiller. Anyway, he said, yeah, so many people are going to get onto this and get in using this and stuff like this. And then he looked right at the camera and he said, hey, this is an ethics class. This is how to make you money. And he's like, it was astonishing. But he said exactly what you just said. Basically, what's propping up this perceived need for more painkillers out there, more prescription drugs. It is the bottom line, and and it was like, if anybody else said that other than a person like him, because some people think it was kind of comical, because he is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But he stated that. I mean, both my friend and I saw different, he was at, we were talking about it later, we had seen it different places or heard it. And we're like, God, did you hear this? We were both had heard the same thing. And it's like, he admitted what's driving this. He basically just, right bull-facedly admitted it. And it's like, and I don't know if many people caught it or just let it pass, through their filter, but, that's pretty astonishing. It's pretty sad, too.
Well, that's it, John. It's like these big companies, they don't give a shit about any of us. All they care about is their bottom line and money. And, I had picked up a little, Katie Couric did a special, and it was just about sugar. And 90% of what's in our markets, 90% of it is got so much sugar in it, and that's another addiction that when it comes to food and and they know exactly that you're going to get sick and end up with diabetes and all these things, but they're really pushing this, and it's all about the dollar. It's all about the money, and they could care less about you and me. So that's where we're at, okay? Hey, John, can you pull up Governor Christie's message? This is another governor that I came across. Here's a politician that's speaking about this epidemic. And to be honest with you, nobody really wants to talk about this, okay? But we're forced into speaking about it because if you don't, it's never going to go away. We're making a little dent, but it's still so big, and
I think you have the video ready. So ready?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
My mother was a smoker. She smoked her whole life. She was addicted to nicotine. She started when she was 16 years old, which was 1948. But by the time 1964 came, the Surgeon General's report came out, and she was in her mid-30s, she knew that smoking was bad for you. And I tell you, I watched her as a kid growing up. She tried everything she could to quit. She had the gum, the patches, hypnosis. She tried everything. She couldn't quit. Now, when she turned 71, a little after that, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. No one came to me and said, don't treat her because she got what she deserved. We know the lung cancer was caused by the smoking. We know it was. But no one came to me and said, hey, listen, your mother was dumb. She started smoking when she was 16. Then after we told her it was bad for her, she kept doing it. So we're not going to give her chemotherapy. We're not going to give her radiation. We're not going to give her any of that stuff. You know why? Because she's getting what she deserves. No one said that. No one said that about someone who had cancer. Yet somehow, if it's heroin or cocaine or alcohol, we say, well, they decided they're getting what they deserved. I'm pro-life. And I think that if you're pro-life, that means you got to be pro-life for the whole life, not just for the 9 months they're in the womb. Right? It's easy. It's easy to be pro-life. For the 9 months they're in the womb, they haven't done anything to disappoint us yet. Right? They're perfect in there. But when they get out, that's when it gets tough. The 16-year-old teenage girl on the floor of the county lockup, addicted to heroin, I'm pro-life for her too. Her life is just as much a precious gift from God as the one in the womb. And we need to start thinking that way as a party and as a people, and the president needs to say those things. I'll give you a second example. I'm a recovering lawyer. Thank you. So I went to law school. And for any of you who went to law school, if there's anybody here who's a lawyer too, you can admit it privately if you want later. But the people that you're closest to from law school are those people who are in your first-year study group. First year when you're nervous as heck, you don't know. You don't know what is up and what's down. Are you going to make it or not make it? You have this small group of people that everybody puts together. There were 8 of us in my group. And we studied together. And you get to see everybody at their absolute worst. These are your best friends in law school. One of the guys that was in my study group, give me his profile. He came, we went to law school at Seton Hall University in New Jersey. He came from an Ivy League school to Seton Hall. He was the smartest of all of us. He became an editor of the Law Review. He was the first one of us who got a job out of school. Got it at a big, prominent law firm in our state. He's making more money than any of the rest of us. He married an incredibly beautiful woman who's a doctor. They have 3 gorgeous daughters, one cuter and happier and more talented than the next. He was the first one among us to become a partner at his law firm. He bought a great house. He had a great car, and worse yet, he was really good looking and in perfect shape. The guy used to run 10, 12 miles a week, every week. So we loved him, but we hated him because the guy had everything, right? He was running one day in his normal routine. He hurt his back. running. He was in his early 40s and was not giving in to age. And he was running his normal time, and he hurt his back. And so he went to the doctor because he was having trouble working. He really hurt. And so he said, listen, we're going to give you some treatment, whatever. But in the meantime, just to help you get you through, we're going to give you Percocet. Help numb the pain. Well, about a year later, I get a call from his wife. And she said, he's addicted to these painkillers. And he won't listen. And I kicked him out of the house. And he's living at his parents' house, and you guys need to go and have an intervention with him. Those friends from law school, you need to go and get him to go to rehab. So we all went over there. We had an intervention with him, and it started a 10-year odyssey of him being in and out of rehab. During that period of time, she divorced him. He lost his right to see his girls. He lost his license to practice law. He lost his driver's license. He lost his home. He bought himself a condo, and she kicked him out. He lost that. He lost all the money, spent all the money that he had saved, and had spent through most of his retirement. When a year and a half ago on a Sunday morning, Mary Pat and I got the call that we've been dreading forever, that they found him dead in a motel room with an empty bottle of Percocet and an empty quart of vodka. 52 years old. By every measure that we define success in this country, this guy had it. Great-looking guy, well-educated, great career, plenty of money, beautiful, loving wife, beautiful children, great house. He had everything. He's a drug addict, and he couldn't get help, and he's dead. And when I sat there as the governor of New Jersey at his funeral and looked across the pew at his three daughters sobbing because their dad is gone, there but for the grace of God go I. It can happen to anyone. And so we need to start treating people in this country, not jailing them. We need to give them the tools they need to recover, because every life is precious. Every life is an individual gift from God. And we have to stop judging and start giving them the tools they need to get better.
It's pretty powerful, huh? That just goes to tell you that this can happen to anybody and everybody. Okay? What happens is they say 10% of us, we inherit this this gene, or this this addiction gene, or this disease, or whatever. So what happens is, we fall into having some kind of pain, or we have a drink of alcohol, or smoke that first joint, or whatever, and that starts us on this path of addiction. And at that point, we're not in control of our life. We do anything and everything, for our addiction. And let me tell you something. Having this go through, within my own family, the person that you raised, you don't even know who that person is anymore. My daughter, she was into sports. She loved to dance. Beautiful girl. Her mother was an addict, and that just, no matter what she did in her life, she always wondered what it is in that drug that kept her mom away. And as a parent, they don't come with with a book of how to deal with each thing that pops up in their life and stuff. As a parent, I didn't know about addiction. All I thought of was it's the choices you make is lead you on the path of whatever it is. So I kept telling my daughter to just stop, and I think she hated to be an addict. She hated to disappoint me, because she loved me. She loved me so much that the drug, she had to have her drug more than she loved her dad, or anything in her life. It drove me crazy. I know it drove her crazy. At her funeral, these people that she got high with, would tell me she would just cry, and she hated to disappoint me. But I just felt her pain, I didn't know what to do for my child. And because of the unknowing, I didn't know what to do for her, so I turned to a system that I thought maybe knew how to take care of her, how to heal her. And, through it all, I kept pleading for my daughter, please do not let her slide through the cracks. Don't let my daughter die. And, as long as the court had a hold of her and stuff, she did what she needed to do to stay clean. And soon as they released her, let's face it, as a parent, our government has got into our home. We have no control over our children. But, we're looked upon like we're the bad guys when our children fail or fall. We're looked at, as the parents are to blame. And that really sucks. At the time that I was going through this, I didn't get it. I felt like they made me feel like I'm doing something wrong, and I didn't know what I was doing wrong. I loved my child more than anything. With Briona, I wasn't married to her mom, but I was having protected sex, and I broke through the rubber, and Briona was conceived. And to be honest with you, I had pleaded with her mom at the time to have an abortion, because I was scared that her mom was going to fall back into the drug scene. And she didn't want to do that, and it was relief off my shoulders. But it was like, just know that I'm going to be here. I'm going to be part of her life, if you happen to fall, that I'll take care of her, but her mom was a wonderful, wonderful mother until she got on drugs again, when you're on drugs, nothing else matters. You do anything for this drug. You steal, you lie, you cheat, you beat people up, you kill, you do anything to get your drugs. You do anything for your addiction. And I'd gotten full custody of my daughter when she was almost 4. And, she struggled through her whole life because her mom was in and out of her life. And I'm sure it was hard for her mom too, having her call somebody else mom. And, instead of, I'm sure she was happy for her that she had a good life and she was doing good and all that. But it seemed like, every time she'd pop back into her life, she'd just mess everything up. She'd confuse Briona more than she was before, like she'd call my wife mom, and it's like, she's not your mom. I'm your mom, I'm the only mom you have. So she would confuse her, and it's not because, Tina was a bad person. No, she was jealous, she's missing out on so much of her daughter's life. And, it got to a point where Briona was in the 8th grade. She had just graduated 8th grade, and this was the last time we seen Briona's mom. She came to her, graduation or whatever, and I think a week or 2 weeks later, she died of an overdose. But when Briona's mom died, it just threw her world upside down. Briona was in a world of pain, and she didn't really understand, how to deal with it. Briona loved boys, and she'd always say, "Daddy, when can I start dating? How old do I got to be before I can start dating?" Briona was 14, and I says, "Well, you can start dating when you're 30 and out of the house." And I'd laugh, and she'd take it for a minute, and she'd say, "Daddy, no, seriously," But at 14, she met an older boy, that had the same problem as Briona, or as, Briona's mom. And she just thought that, she couldn't help her mom, but she can help this kid out. And now let me tell you, Briona was terrified of needles. I remember I took her for immunization, and she, I'd have to cover her face or get her attention so she wouldn't see the needle going in her arm and stuff. That's how terrified she was of needles. And later when I found out she was addicted to this, I knew there was no way that she put that needle in her arm, at least the first time. And she told me, she said, "No, Daddy, he put it in my arm." When I asked her, it's like, "You seen your mom die of this, why would you do this?" And Briona's reply was, "I wanted to know what was so good in this drug, that kept my mom away." Now, Briona was very, very intelligent. Briona was a debater, and she was damn good at it, she was witty and smart, but, that was part of the life that, I don't know, she had to find out for herself, I guess. I'm a strong believer in God. And, I believe that I don't care religion or what. I think everybody has their own personal relationship with God. And, with Briona, after she died, I was in a world of depression. Now, Briona, her, the last Christmas, that she came to the house, Briona was really into dolphins because her mom loved dolphins. So I got her this dolphin necklace, and she loved this necklace, Well, anyways, she stayed, through Christmas, and she left. And I didn't see Briona again until like the first or second week of January. And I remember, she would call, like leave messages and stuff, and you could tell, because she's slurring her words and stuff like that. I remember she called me, New Year's is my birthday, and she called and left it on my answer machine, wishing me happy birthday. But she's slurring her words and stuff, and I could tell she was high, So anyways, about a week or so later, she calls me. I think it was middle of January. She calls me. She said, "Daddy, I want to come home, Daddy. I overdosed and I almost died, and I've learned my lesson. I just want to come home, you know. And you know, a lot of times when we're struggling with a kid that's an addict, we don't mean to, but we want to do everything we can for them, and a lot of times it's not the right thing to do, you know. But it's at this point, you know, Briona has I mean, this has been a 2-year struggle now. It's not just we're at this point, but 2 years into it, you know, she's robbed my parents' home, her and her boyfriend. She's robbed me. She's you know, stolen things from the house. You know, all these different things that's happened. Briona, you know, she cut the tether off her leg. A lot of things happened to get to this point. You know, I told her, I says, honey, there's nothing more I want than for you to come home, you know. At least I know where you're at and stuff. I said, but Briona, you got to understand, you know, honey, you have 2 brothers that you need to be looking out for too, you know. And she said, I promise, Daddy, I promise, you know, I'm not going to do this anymore, and I want to come home, you know. So she did, you know. She came home, I believe it was the 2nd or 3rd week of January. So, you know, come to Valentine's Day weekend. Now, you know, Briona's been home for a couple of weeks now, and you know, she started. Briona had a car, and she didn't have no driver's license, so she started taking driver's training, and you know, at this point, she had studied for the GED, and she took the test and passed it. So she's getting her life together, you know. We're moving forward. Come to this weekend, you know, Briona sends me a text, Daddy, you know, it's Valentine's Day weekend, and I'll see you Sunday or something. And I'm like, Briona, you didn't even ask. You're just telling me what you're doing and stuff, you know. I'm still, I mean, you want to live in my home, you got to live under my rules, you know. She goes, Daddy, I know, it's just Valentine's weekend, you know, and just let me have this weekend, you know. So I don't know what happened this weekend, but I seen Briona Sunday night. She came home, and you know, I told her, I said, sit down, we're gonna talk. I says, you know, Briona, you need to finish your driver's training. I want you to go look at you know, universities or colleges. Let's get you back, you know, what you need to do there. You know, I need you to find a job or what, but, you know, you can't just be in and out and you have nothing going on. She's, you know, she kept trying to interrupt, but I said, no, I want you to listen, and I want you to say if it's okay or if it's not. You know, this is my rules. This is what I want. You know, for you to live here, this is what you got to do. And she said, okay. I said, okay, honey, go to bed. You know, I remember she loved to crunch on ice. Briona was anemic, and I found out that that's what they do or something. So anyway, she liked to crunch on ice. So she, you know, filled up her glass of ice and she took it upstairs. And the next day I left. I was getting ready to go do the income tax. You know, this is Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2011. And I remember I was coming out of my room and she was getting ready to go in the bathroom, and she kind of just put her arm up, you know. I thought she was saying good morning. But anyways, I realized later she was saying goodbye. because that was the last I really seen her alive. Later that day, I came back and she was supposed to have driver's training, and I went to wake her up, and sure enough, she was gone. The needle was still in her arm. She was behind the door. Anyway, I was I was in a bad place. I struggled with depression, and depression is the best way to describe it is your body aches from head to toe, and there's nothing really that takes it away. It's hard to get in a shower. It's hard to get out of bed. It's really hard to function. And you're mad at the world. You're mad at God. You're mad at everything. I'm mad at the judicial system for letting my daughter die. I'm mad at our probation officer, at our judge, at everybody and everything. At that point we started Community Parent, and we had went into a couple schools, and it was a good way to get out my anger, and by telling her story and stuff. But I didn't really realize, what really we were doing. I was they had done this program, or the sheriff had came up with this program, and they asked me to speak, and I was like, yeah, I'll speak. If we can save one person's life by telling Briona's story, then it's worth it. So anyways, we started doing Chasing the Dragon, and I'm still in depression, and at this point, my wife, she tells me to she said, honey, I need you to go see a doctor or see somebody, So I started seeing a therapist, and within a couple months, this therapist, she decided that, she says, I think if you slept, that might help. So I turned to the psychiatrist, and he started me out on like a mild sedative, I think. And then within 4 months, I'm on 4 or 5 different medications now, and I'm still in depression, but now I'm like groggy, I'm loopy, I don't really get it, I just know I lost my child, and I ate so bad. So I think after the 4th or 5th month, I went and I went back to the psychiatrist, and he's asking me, how's this working out for you? And I said, Doc, I'm still not sleeping. Now I'm loopy, I'm groggy, I'm, it's just, I don't know, I'm still depressed, He said, well, maybe we need to change something. I just thought to myself, I said, you know what, maybe I'm just supposed to feel this pain, I don't know why or what, but maybe I just need to go through this, He says to me, he says, well, I don't know why you came to see me. At that point, I looked at him, and I said, I don't know why I came either, but I know I'm not coming back. About a month or later, Briona would have turned 18. It was October 9th, and we decided that we're going to go to the cemetery and celebrate her life, the whole family. And we got there, it was kind of late, the moon was coming down. And as we got to the cemetery, I think my niece or something, she says, look, Uncle Sammy, look at the clouds and stuff. And up in the clouds, you seen the moon was just lit so bright. And it was like a spotlight on this cloud that was a dolphin. And it was like, it was like God was talking to me. He was telling me that, Briona's okay. And I have this mission for you. And I had to, get myself better because I have a wonderful, wonderful wife and two beautiful boys that needed me, that needed their father in their life, and I needed to be strong for them. Depression is nothing to mess with. It's really, really crazy. But I realized what I needed most of all to get me through this pain was I needed to put it in God's hands, because that's what He told us. He told us that when it gets too heavy for you to bear, you got to put it in my hands and I'll get you through it. Now, do I struggle with depression? Hell yeah, I still struggle with depression, but He gets me through it. He gets me through it. And the whole thing is, sometimes in our life we have our whole life planned out for us. Look, I'm not a preacher. I'm just telling you this is what I needed, or this is what happened in my life, and that's what worked for me. I'm not here to, convert you or whatever. That's far from the truth. But it was like God was talking to me, and God was telling me He had a mission. He had something for me to do. Sometimes when tragedies or things happen in your life, you try to figure them out. Why did I busted through a rubber and my daughter was born. It was like she was meant to be here. It was like she was meant to be here for this little while, and I thank God for every minute that I had with her. But it was like that I needed to open my eyes to this addiction, this epidemic that's going on, and I needed to be a voice for these addicts, a voice for this cause. Did I understand it? No. We go into schools and we tell these kids about addiction. We teach them about addiction and to get help if they fall. And we've been in front of over 50,000 kids, about 53,000 kids. And to be honest with you, I think God talks to us all the time. It's just whether we're listening or not. I'm glad that I have this relationship and this belief. It's not... I came across this thing about, does prayer or does it really work? I think with prayer, it gets rid of stress. It gets rid of being scared. It gets rid of emptiness. You just feel better about it because you're putting it in God's hands. And when you have faith, when you believe, you get through it. It brings happiness. Gets rid of loneliness, And again, I'm not preaching. I'm just telling you this is what worked for me. I picked up this cause, and I've seen a lot of changes, but we're nowhere close to where we need to be. You know, in 2015, our governor he signed a bill for this naloxone. Naloxone is something that's administered, a pill that, or it's not a pill, but it's like one of those EpiPens or whatever. What happens is somebody that's overdosing, once they inject them with this, it revitalizes them. It brings them back to life. It like counters the drugs. And another thing that's been passed, you'll find the naloxone with fire departments and police departments, sheriff. Not all of them, but we're getting there. Even in some of the schools, nurses have this available. If somebody overdoses at school, that we can save their life. Another thing that's happened too is a bill was passed here in our state that if somebody's overdosing and you have opiates or you have heroin on you and you call for help, you're not. They don't hold you accountable. They don't prosecute you, put it that way, because you did the right thing by calling for help. Where before, what happens is, a dealer, you be dying and they're so worried about prosecution that they just leave you there. They leave you there. So that opens a door to get people help, and they won't prosecute you, which is, we're moving in the right direction. You know what? I'm just a parent. I don't have all the answers, but I think with the coalitions and everybody speaking out about this epidemic, that we're getting our lawmakers, our politicians and people that makes the laws, we're getting them to open up their eyes and realize that we need to do something different. With this marijuana big thing, in our state, and I'm sure it's probably going to be back on the ballot, and I'm sure it's probably going to get passed. For the longest time, I think till 1937 or something, marijuana was legal. We found it in almost all kinds of different medications. And really here's something you never ever hear of anybody. Now, I don't condone this, or I'm not pushing it or anything, but you never hear anybody of overdosing on marijuana. But the drug companies and everybody wants to block this, where there's so many good things in this marijuana. I mean, you can even take the THC, the stuff that gets you high, out of it, because it has a lot of good properties, and it helps out in a lot of different things. And again, we need to self-educate ourselves, to see what's going on around us, so we can make the right decisions. Just like, getting out and vote. Don't just vote a party or whatever. Hold these people accountable, Make our voices count. Here in America, it's about we the people, and we the people are sleeping. These politicians are working for big companies, drug companies, oil companies, all these people that have all the money, okay? And all they give a shit about is making more money, and they could care less how many people die along the way. Okay, I had you listen to, or I had that that thing with Governor Christie, and he talked about his mom was an addict to cigarette smoking. And look, these cigarette companies, they covered it up for the longest time. They knew that this caused addiction, and they knew that people were going to die, and they covered it up, and they covered it up, and they covered it up until what? Till one day we said enough, and we exposed these companies for who they are. And it's just the same thing with these drug companies. It's the same thing with drugs coming over our borders. Okay, there was a thing a few months back, New York State or something. They had the biggest drug bust of heroin and marijuana, and that came across, and they busted them for $50 million worth of street value drugs. And let me tell you something, okay? This stuff, for it to come over, there's so much people that are on high places that are getting paid to turn their backs. There's corruption, yes, there's corruption, okay? That's the only way that it happens, okay? If you look at all the way back, it's the mighty dollar and greed. Mighty dollar and greed, okay? Please, ladies and gentlemen, let's make a difference in the world. Let's wake up, and it's about we the people. It's easy to just put our heads in the sand and say this isn't happening, in our neighborhoods. But it is. It is. I'm asking you today, to join a cause. Open your eyes for something that's real. Our children are dying. Our family members are dying. Okay? We cannot sit by the wayside and say it's not. It is happening. And it's about you and me and everybody standing up for something that's real. Something that's real. Listen, when Ebola came out, President Obama, he got the czar and all of this, one person died in America. One person, maybe two, okay? But we have 328 people that die every day. 328 people die every day of this epidemic. That's more than cancer. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? We even got the president talking about it within the first couple minutes of his speech. He's talking about the opiate overdoses and heroin. This is an epidemic. This is an epidemic that's not going away. And I need you to jump on the bandwagon and see what you can do to help. I'm a strong believer that one hand does not clap by itself. And I'm a strong believer that the bigger the voice, that they can't shut you out. They can't close their ears anymore. That they have to listen. And by listening, we can get things done. We can make changes that we can be proud of. Join me. Join these coalitions. Jump up. Be a voice. Thank you for listening today. I really appreciate it. Wish you a happiest of New Year. And together, we can make a difference. Have a great day.